Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today our subject is professional development. It is lecture number 21 and the main topic of this lecture is micro teaching. The outlines of the lectures, we will discuss introduction about the main topic, then definition of micro teaching, then basic concepts, then efficient techniques being used in micro teaching, then factors of effective classroom communication, features of micro teaching, principles underlying micro teaching, characteristics of micro teaching, components of micro teaching, and then procedures in micro teaching, and then its merits and demerits. First of all, we see that what is micro teaching? This is the art of teaching. We all know that that doesn't merely involve a simple transfer of knowledge from one to another. Instead, it is a complex process that facilitates and influences the process of learning. Quality of a teacher is estimated on how much a student understands from his or her teaching. The classrooms cannot be used as a learning platform for acquiring primary teaching skills. Training of medical teacher in specific teaching skills is a major challenge in medical education program, and the same in education for making or producing a teachers. So they must know that how to teach a topic or depth of the topic. Micro teaching is a teacher training and faculty development technique whereby the teacher reviews a recording of a teaching session in order to get constructive feedback from peers or the students about what has worked and what improvements can be made to their teaching technique. Basically, micro teaching was invented in 1963 at Stanford University by W. Allen and has subsequently been used to develop educators in all forms of education. In the original process, a teacher was asked to prepare a short lesson, usually 50 minutes for a small group of learners who may not have been his or her own students. So this was then recorded on videos, and after the lessons, the teacher, the teaching colleagues, a master teacher and a student together viewed the videotape and commented on what they saw happening, referencing the teacher's teaching objectives. So watching the videos and getting comments from the colleagues and students provide teachers with an often intense under the microscope view of their teachings. Now there are some definitions of micro teaching. Allen D.W. in 1966 defined micro teaching that this is a scaled down teaching encounter in class size and class time. Allen D.W. and F.A.W. in 1968 they defined that micro teaching, this is a system of controlled practice that makes it possible to concentrate on specific teaching behavior and to practices teaching under controlled conditions. Remember that micro teaching is a technique aiming to prepare teachers candidates to the real classroom settings. So this is also said by Brent and Thompson in 1996. So micro teaching can also be defined as a teaching technique especially used in a teacher's pre-service education to train them systematically by allowing them to experiment main teachers' behavior. So by the help of this technique, teachers candidates can experiment and learn each of the teaching skills by breaking them into the smaller parts and without encountering chaotic environment of the crowded classes. So while instilling teaching skills in students during micro teaching, reciprocal negotiations of the students actively presenting and watching about the performance can make a great contribution to the acquisition of the skills, as it is defined by Demerits in 2006. Bush Oren in 1966 also defined that micro-teaching is a teacher education technique which allows teachers to apply clearly defined teaching skills to carefully prepared lessons in a planned series of 5 to 10 minutes encounter with a small group of real students, often with an opportunity to observe the result on videotape. Now there are some basic concepts about micro teaching, that micro teaching is a teacher training technique for learning teaching skills. It implies real teaching situations for developing skills and help to get deeper knowledge regarding the art of teaching. We must know that while teaching, there are different techniques of handling the students, teaching the topics, and also the covering all aspects in delivering, imparting knowledge, or using equipments. So the knowledge of everything that must be with the teachers. This is also the art of teaching. The Stanford technique involves the step of plan, teach, observe, replan, reteach, and reobserve. Effective students teaching should be the prime quality of a teacher, as an innovative method of equipping teachers to be effective. Skills and practices of micro teachings have been implemented. There are some efficient techniques and effective teaching. Micro teaching can be practiced with a very small lessons or a single concept and a less number of students. Remember that micro teaching requires a very small lesson in which the single concept is to be considered and very less number of students sit in that lesson. The modern day multimedia equipment such as audio video recording devices has a key role in the learning process. Because in this learning process all the lectures may be recorded, and after delivering a lecture through that audio video recording devices, the different comments may be given by the assessors, and then those comments may be helpful for the teachers to improve his skills of teaching. Micro teaching helps in eliminating errors and build stronger teaching skills for the beginners and senior teachers. Micro teaching increases the self-confidence, improves the in-class teaching performances, and develops the classroom management skills. So this is what that basically is used for eliminating errors, what we face while teaching into the class. So micro teaching helps to remove such errors and build the strong confidence in teaching and classroom management. There are some factors which affect or to make the classroom's communication more effective. like use of best teaching strategies. Always use the best teaching strategies. And use of proper technology. If there is a technology, then you must know that how to utilize it into the classrooms. Then effective use of feedback. Like when assessors give feedback to the teachers, then those feedbacks must be considered in positive sense so that the errors may be removed. This is a two-way communication because always there remains the discussions between teachers and students or teacher and assessors. And then development of motivation. If the teacher is motivated and he or she wants to remove his or her errors, then this is possible to become a good teacher. Principle of clarity. This is also very important, that whatever you are speaking, so that must be clear to the students. Now there are some features of micro teaching. So what are the features of micro teaching? First of all, micro elements. Micro teaching reduces to complexities of the teaching situations in terms of students, duration of lessons and subject matter to be taught, so as to enable the trainee to concentrate on the training process. Training is also given in the mastery of only one skill at a time, and one should master the components of the task of teaching before he attempts to perform effectively the complicated task of teaching at macro level. The second one is teaching skills and teaching strategies, like pre-instructional skill. Pre-instructional skill means that this involves writing of instructional objectives, sequencing and organizing knowledge to be presented in order to achieve specific objectives, appropriate content, proper organization, selection of proper audio-visual aids. Before instructional, we must know that how to prepare objectives and what are the appropriate contents and what is the proper organization of those contents, and then the suitable audio-visual aids for delivering or explaining those contents. Then instruction skills are there, like skills of introducing a lesson, skills of explaining and illustrating, reinforcement problem questions, reinforcing pupil participation, diagnosing pupils' difficulties, etc. Then post-instructional skills. That after instructions that like skills of writing test items, interpreting pupils performing in a test, planning remedial measures, etc. The third one is the feedback element. This is also very important, that in the present system of assessing the teaching competency of a trainee, feedback is given by the supervisor or the assessors who sit into that lessons and or that lecture for pointing out the errors what they have done or committed at that time. What may be that oral feedback by the supervising teachers means the feedback may be oral by the supervising teachers or observation schedules filled in by the peer group participating in a micro lessons. Audio tape recording is a source of accurate feedback. Videotape recording provides the most accurate and powerful source of feedback. The fourth one is safe practice ground. Safe practice ground means that a micro teaching laboratory appears to possess all the inherent features of the classroom. And the teaching models, like the trainees have many opportunities to study the desired patterns of behavior through a tape or film of teaching models or a demonstration given by the supervisor. Now, there are some principles underlying micro teaching. So, what are those principles? Like practice, reinforcement, experimentations, evaluations, precise supervisions, and continuity. Micro teaching revolves around the certain principles to improve and reach an all round development of the teachers, like one skill at one time, small scale content. Practice makes a man perfect. Experiments or instantaneous feedbacks, self evaluation opportunities, and continuous efforts. So, there are some principles underlying micro teachings, like principles of one skill at a time. It means that in micro teaching, training of one skill is given till the person has acquired mastery over it. Then the second skill is taken up, and so on. Thus, we find that micro teaching is based on the principle of giving training of one skill at a time. Then, principle of limited contents means micro teaching, limited contents are taken up, and teacher is required to use those contents only. And it helps the beginner teachers teach that limited material easily and confidently. Remember that always take a very less content and micro teaching. Then principle of practice. It means that micro teaching is based on the second principle of practice. Here a lot of practice is given by the taking up on a skill at a time. Practice makes a man perfect. It helps the pupil teacher and becoming better and better. Then the next one is principle of experimentation. It means that the pupil teacher and the supervisor conduct experiment on teaching skills under controlled conditions. Variables like time duration of the lessons, content of the lessons to be taught, number of students sitting in the class, etc. can easily be controlled. So these things are basically given for the practice, so that in the classrooms the teacher may deliver his lessons well with controlled situations. The next principle is principle of immediate feedback. The micro lessons last for 4 or 5 minutes only. Therefore, thereafter, feedback is provided to the pupil teacher. It helps the pupil teacher to know his drawbacks and improve them effectively without any delay. The other principle is principle of evaluation. In micro teaching, each micro lesson is supervised by supervisors, or the peer drawbacks and teaching are pointed out and suggestions for improvement is given. So self-evaluation is also possible. Thus, evaluation ensures good learning by the pupil teacher. Self-evaluations may be corrected or taken through videotape recordings or the other devices that may have storage of the recording, so that after that the teacher may evaluate himself or herself through that teaching or through that recording. The next principle is principle of continuity. So learning of different skills of different teaching is continuous process in micro teaching program. The pupil teacher is learning one skill at a time, and learning continues till he has mastered the skill. For each skill, the principle of continuity is implied. It makes the teacher good and effective. The other principle is principle of individualized training. In micro teaching, each trainee is given training very thoroughly. So there is individual attentions by the supervisor. The drawbacks in teaching are pointed out, suggestions given one by one, and then improvement is brought about. In micro teaching, basically the teacher trainee is given training thoroughly on each aspect, on each skills, so that he or she may get skills or potentials on that skills. So the drawbacks are being highlighted or pointed out, and suggestions may be given for its improvement. Now there are some characteristics of micro teaching. Like it is a teacher training technique and not a method of classroom instruction. It is micro and in the sense that it scales down the complexities of real teaching. Out of contents, a single concept is taken up at a time. Only one skill at a time is practiced. Size of the class is reduced and thus the number of students is just 5 to 7. Duration of each micro lessons is 5 to 7 minutes. Feedback is provided immediately after the completion of the lesson. The use of videotapes and closed circuit televisions makes the observations very objective. It is highly individualized training devices because this is totally dependent on individuals. There is high degree of control in practicing a skill when this technique is used, because this is basically the improvement of a unique skills. Micro teaching is an analytical approach to training, and micro teaching involves actually teaching real lessons to real pupils with none of the role playing of the earlier modeling teaching situations. Now there are some components of micro teaching, like teacher, the pupils usually 4 to 5, brief lessons, and objectives of the specific micro teaching occasions, and feedback by the supervisor or by using audio tape recording, video tape recording, or closed circuit televisions. Now there are some phases of micro teaching, like first phase is knowledge acquisition phase. This is called pre-active phase, where the demonstration skills are being observed, and analysis and discussion about demonstration. Then skill acquisition phase, this is interactive phase. Here the teacher prepare macro lessons, then practice skills, and then the feedback is to be given. Then transfer phase is there. This is post-active phase, where the transfer of skills to actual teaching situation. It involves a program of micro teaching. A particular skills is defined to students in terms of specific teaching behaviors. A teacher educators can be given a demonstration lesson where the particular skill is employed. The pupil teacher then pre-decided model on a suitable topic relating to the particular skills which he proposes to practice. The pupil teachers teach the lessons to small group of pupils, preferably of peer groups, as a simulated condition. Feedback is provided immediately to the pupil teacher by audio tape or videotape recorder. The observation schedule is maintained by the college supervisors, and peer group observers can provide useful information for the feedback sessions. So this session is sometimes called critique session, because here the persons who sit for assessing, they criticize on the skills. Basically those are being used for improvement of the teacher. The revised lesson is retaught to different but comparably group of pupils, and the lesson is again observed and observations are noted in the platform. Feedback is again provided on the reteach session. This step is called re-feedback session. So the plan, teach, feedback, replan, reteach, and re-feedback sessions will constitute a single micro teaching cycle. So this cycle may be repeated till adequate level of skill acquisitions take place. So till the acquisition of a particular skills, so this practice remains going on. Now, what are the main assumptions about micro teaching? The first one is that this is a real teaching, means micro teaching is a real teaching, although the teaching situation is a constructed one in the sense that teacher and students work together in a practice situations. Nevertheless, bona fide teachers does take place. And the other assumption is that this is reducing complexities, means micro teaching lessens the complexities of normal classroom teaching, like class size, scope of content, and time are all reduced. The other assumption is focus on training. Micro teaching focuses on training for the accomplishment of specific tasks. These tasks may be the practice of techniques of teaching, the mastery of certain curricular materials, or the demonstration of teaching methods. Then the other assumption is increased control of practice, means after many times, after repetition of the same skills, the persons or the teacher increase the control of different things, and that comes with the help of feedback, supervisions, and also the other factors may be manipulated. As a result of a high degree of control can be built into the training program. And the other one is expanding knowledge of results, means immediately after teaching a brief micro lessons, the trainee engages in critique of his performance to give him maximum insight into this performance. Several sources of feedback at his disposal. So there are 5 hours in micro teaching, means recording, redoing, refining, responding, and reviewing. Now there is some procedures in micro teaching, like first of all defining the skills, demonstrating the skills, planning this teaching the lessons, and discussions. Teaching the lessons means that the pupil teachers teach the lessons to a small group of people, 5 to 10. The lesson is observed by supervisor or peers, or videotaped, or audios tape or televised at closed circuit televisions. The same is discussions, followed by discussions to provide the feedback to the trainees. And replanning, in the light of discussion and suggestions, the pupil teacher replans the lessons in order to practice the small skill effectively, and this is basically used for making the small skills for presenting more effectively. The 7th stage is reteaching. The revised lesson is retaught to another small group of students of the same class for the same class duration to practice the small skill. Rediscussions means that reteaching is again followed by discussion, suggestions, and encouraging the teaching performance. Thus the feedback is again provided to the trainee. And repeating the cycle, the reteach cycle is repeated till desired level of skill is achieved. There are some steps like plan, teach, feedback, replan, reteach, and refeed. So every stage has some time, like teach is 6 minutes, feedback 6 minutes, replan 12 minutes, reteach 6 minutes, and refeedback 6 minutes. Then there are some merits of micro teachings, like it is an effective feedback device for the modification of the teacher's behavior. It is highly individualized type to teach training. It is useful for developing teaching efficiency in pre-service and in-service teacher training program. It helps in systematic and objective observations by providing specific observations schedule, and it helps in acquiring various types of skills which ultimately form the basis of successful teaching. It reduces the complexities of normal classroom teaching, such as size of the class, time, and problem of discipline. It is training device for improving teaching practice and to prepare effective teachers. Teaching is a complicated type of activity. Macro teaching simplifies it so as to make it suitable for the beginner teachers. It develops the feeling of confidence among the teachers, and it provides economy in mastering the teaching skills. The use of videotape enables the trainee to analyze his own teaching performance. It can be done either in real classroom conditions or simulated conditions. It focuses on training for the practice of instruction skills, mastery of certain curricular materials, and practice of techniques of teaching. It permits increased control and regulates teaching practice. It enables the trainees to make progress in developing teaching skills at his own rating depending upon ability. Trainees get satisfaction when they hear and see themselves through audio-video tapes. Now there are some demerits like through micro teaching one trainee is trained at a time. It is more time consuming as trainee will make 35 minutes to practice one skill only. So it presents fragmented view of teaching and the immediate feedback which is must may not be feasible in all conditions. So due to short lessons of 6 minutes, a trainee cannot get training in evaluation, diagnostic and remedial skills. It cannot fit in Pakistani conditions and situations due to its short practice period which may create academic and administrative problems in the schools. It depresses the creativity of teachers. During teaching, teachers evolve something new, but he has to stop as the micro lessons end. Micro teaching can be carried on successfully only in controlled environment, but generally it is found classroom situations are flexible. It wastes a lot of time of students. Each micro lessons goes on for 5 to 10 minutes, where the main emphasis is on teaching technique. Learning by students is almost ignored. So macro teaching almost may not be sufficient. There is need of integrating it with other teaching tech. So in conclusion, we can say that macro teaching works as a focused instrument which helps to practice essential teaching skills safely and effectively at any age. So learning is a change in behavior which is brought about by activity, training and experiencing at any age. When the learner is more experienced, learning becomes more effective. The most important quality of participants of micro teaching sessions is the ability to give the receive constructive feedback with an open mind and achieve appropriate teaching learning goals. In addition, it increases self-confidence of teachers in an atmosphere of friendliness and equanimity. So this is all very much. Take care. Allah Hafiz.